Alright guys, I'm the NFL Ag, and today I will be making my NFL recommendation for the 2021 Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm very sorry for my rocky post schedule. It's just my computer's not been working very well, so I haven't been posting daily like I used to be. So hopefully I can get back to that, but I do still have, some things to face out. But anyways, make sure you can subscribe if you like NFL content because we let you around, and let's go ahead and get started talking about the Eagles. The Eagles have had one of the worst off seasons, but maybe one of the most necessary off seasons this past season because they basically what they did is they took all their good players except for Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, and they got rid of them. And what they're hoping is that Jalen Hurts takes that second year step and that he shows that he can, have some success in this league. I mean, they don't have any talent on that team really at all now, but maybe he can show, some flashes here and there that show like, hey, he still got it. They do still have some pieces here and there, especially that tight end duo. That tight end duo is definitely, it's probably top 10 in the league. Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz are very, very good. However, Zach Ertz has said recently that he wants out of Philadelphia, so that could very soon turn into, oh, they have a pretty okay tight end, which is a lot worse. But having an okay tight end as your backup tight end is just really, really, really good. And that is like, that opens up a lot of possibilities. But anyways, they're hoping that Jalen Hurts can, take this next step. And if they can come through the season, this is basically a tank season. If they can go through the season, last in their division, maybe a top 5 pick, 2 or 3 wins is, their optimal situation. Then next off season, they can work on taking all those people that they released, taking all the money they got from that, taking all the freaking draft picks they got from all that, and starting to sign lots of players to build around Jalen Hurts. That is basically the ideal situation. The worst thing that can happen is they go, 7-10, and they don't end up with a very good draft pick, and things aren't looking too great, and they end up kind of bouncing in this offseason. Or Jalen Hurts looks absolutely horrible. They win maybe 0 games. I mean, it's very possible. They're one of the worst teams in the league right now. It's very possible that if Jalen Hurts does not improve from what he was at the end of last season, because at the end of last season, he was terrible, okay? If he does not improve from that, there's a good chance that they don't win any games. But let's go ahead and get started talking about in week 1 they have an away game against the Atlanta Falcons, who did draft Kyle Pitts, who's going to be a very, very good tight end for the Falcons. However, they did lose Julio Jones, and that is going to be probably the biggest thing that happened this whole offseason is they lost probably their best player, one of the best players in the league, and they let him go for. I mean, if you look at the actual trade, the Titans had to give up next to nothing. The Falcons did not gain anything from that. However, looking at that Falcons defense from last year, at the end of the last year, their Falcons defense started to pick up. I mean, you look at that Raiders game when they completely demolished them. I mean, Falcons they have a pretty solid defense, and they do still have, some pieces to that offense, so I'm going to give them the win here. And then you have in week 2, they have their first home game, but it's against a fully healthy San Francisco 49ers team. And, the 49ers, when they're healthy, with George Kittle, with Raheem Mostert, with all that talent on offense, it'd be really hard for this talentless Philadelphia Eagles to do anything. And then the stellar defense. The 49ers are going to get a win here. It's not even a question here. But their first divisional game is probably the one that I think they have the biggest chance to win. Or, no, other than the home one. But any game against Dallas is probably a lot easier than their games against Washington and the Giants. In Dallas, basically all they signed a couple people for their secondary, and they re-signed Dak, and that is it. That is all that they did. So, yeah, didn't do all that much. They didn't do anything to fill up their massive hole at offensive line. Offensive line was by far the biggest issue. However, they do still have Amari Cooper. They do still have a pretty good offense. Ezekiel Elliott, he's definitely probably entering the second half of his career. He had a horrible year last year, and a lot of that had to do with the terrible offensive line, which hasn't been fixed. So, yeah. However, he is still a solid running back, and they do still have a solid offense, so I'm going to give them the win here, but there's a reason I said this is probably the one that I think they have the biggest chance of winning. Now they're going up against the best team in the league. They're not winning that one. Then in week 5, they have an away game against the Carolina Panthers, and the Panthers, they got Sam Darnold, who I think will be an actual upgrade to Terry Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater. But you look at that, and they've got DJ Moore. They've got Robbie Anderson. They've got, obviously, Christian McCaffrey. This Carolina offense is really underrated. Even with the loss of Curtis Samuel, who went to Washington, I definitely think this Carolina offense is still good enough to get them the win against Philadelphia. And now in week 6, they have a home game against the reigning Super Bowl champions, probably, in the top 5 teams in the league. The Buccaneers are going to win this game any day of the week. And then in week 7, it's an away game against the Las Vegas Raiders. This video is going to be real boring. I'm trying to do it quickly. But in week 7, it's an away game against the Las Vegas Raiders, who, they have an all right team. They're probably bottom of the league at this point. They haven't really done all that much this past offseason. I mean, their draft pick was horrible this year as usual. But I'm still gonna give them the win here just because I like that offensive line. I like obviously Josh Jacobs. That offense does still have some pieces on it. And then in week 8 they have an away game against the Detroit Lions, and the Lions. They're also kind of down there with the Eagles. This is probably their easiest game yet. They haven't any easy games. Obviously, they're 0-7, but still, this is probably going to be the easiest. All that they did this offseason was they downgraded a quarterback. They took a massive downgraded quarterback, and they signed an offensive lineman. And I don't much care for this defense. I do like the front 7 a bit. I like this defense. I think actually, I like this, Eagles offense enough to say that I think the Eagles could actually get the win in week 8. But I wouldn't be surprised if their last one of the year. And then in week 9, they have a home game against the Los Angeles Chargers, coming off of their first win of the year. And in week 8, the Chargers with a new coaching staff are going to be insanely good, and they're going to get the win against Philadelphia. Then an away game against the Denver Broncos, who added so much to that secondary. This defense is going to be one of the best this next season. Not one of the best, but probably top 10 in the league. Denver gets the win here. And then in week 11, they have a home game against in my opinion, an underrated team in the New Orleans Saints, who really, I feel like they still have a lot of talent on that team, especially that offense. And Jameis Winston, a year behind Drew Brees, is going to help him out a lot. New Orleans gets this win here easily. And then in Philadelphia, well, not in Philadelphia, but in the New York Giants Stadium, whatever the heck it's called, they're going to be playing the Giants. I don't know why all my segues are so weird like that in between games. But on the Giants, they have a pretty solid defense. At the end of last year, especially that game against especially that game against the Seahawks, the Giants defense looked really, really good. Adding Kenny Golladay and Kyle Rudolph to that offense. If Daniel Jones can step it up, then this team definitely has a chance to get 12 wins. But the Giants are going to get the win here. In week 13, going up against the New York Jets, who definitely got an upgraded quarterback with drafting Zach Wilson. And I like this offense actually enough to get them the win over Philadelphia, but this one's actually really close. And when I do best case scenario, the Eagles probably gonna win this one. And then week 15, they're going against Washington, who probably has a top 3 defense, one of the best in the league by a long shot. And even just saying that, I think you already know Washington's gonna get the win here. But yeah, and then Giants gonna get the sweep. Come on. Oh, by the way, they entered their bye week at 1-12, but it's kind of rough. Anyways, so yeah. 1-16. Let's do worst case scenario real quick. All right. Now worst case scenario is 0-17. And then again, before I do best case scenario, I want to just remind you that worst case scenario and best case scenario are the absolute farthest I can stretch. So the absolute most possible wins I think they can possibly pump out this season is best case scenario, and the worst is obviously 0-17. And then what I actually think is going to happen, what I think is by far the most likely scenario, is 1-16. Now let's do absolute best case scenario, and this is Jalen Hurts steps it up. The offensive line, which I didn't even mention, but they do still have 1 or 2 players on there that can kind of do something. They all step up, and maybe. Losing Alshon Jeffrey, Deshaun Jackson. Oh man, the Eagles are in a rut right now, but I'm trying to think. Maybe they could beat the Falcons. The Panthers are, they could win the Denver game. They could definitely beat the Jets, and I could see them splitting with the Eagles and Cowboys. So this is, again, if any Cowboy or Giant or Washington fan watching this who don't like the Eagles, this is as far as I can stretch. I do not see a scenario. Well, I could see them sweeping Dallas, actually. I cannot see a scenario in my mind. By the way, just look at this. But anyways, I cannot see a scenario in my mind where they win double-digit games. I just cannot see one where they don't get swept by Washington, where they sweep the Giants, where they beat. I think everyone can kind of agree that this is about as far as I'm willing to stretch. But if you're an Eagles fan and you think, oh, there's no way they don't win 12 games, let me know in the comments, not by that dislike button. All right. I mean, just comment. Tell me why I'm stupid. Maybe even dislike, but come on, just let me know. By the way, happy 4th of July if you live in America. If not, then happy beginning of July. Happy summer break or whatever. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in my next one when I'll be talking about the... Come on. I want to see what team I'll be talking about. When I will be talking about the LA Rams, who will have a much better record than the measly Philadelphia Eagles. I hope to see you in my next one. But if you're not going to, I mean, like and subscribe. But if you're an Eagles fan, I kind of understand if you don't want to go watch any more of my videos. But until then, goodbye.